Hi, everyone. It's Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media. This week's Rutgers Rant is brought to you by the New Brunswick Development Corporation. A big thank you to our sponsor and to all of our listeners for the continued support. Now let's get to the show.
From NJ.com and the Star Ledger, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights, with your hosts Steve Politi and Rutgers insiders Brian Fonseca and Pat Lenny. Let's start shopping.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rant. Thanks for joining us. Back after a 66-7 victory over Wagner, or Pat, as I like to call them, Swagner. So this inside joke here, Pat Lanny's been calling him Swagner. And on the Twitter, I jumped in and stole it from him. And he looked at me in the press box like, you were legitimately hurt when I did that, by the way. Have you recovered?
Yeah, it is. Listen, when you got swag like Steve Politi, you can steal it. So
I can
you
steal
are
it.
the swag master of the podcast.
All right, fair enough. All right, so big victory, most points in a game for Rutgers since I was in college, so a long time ago. And so I wake up Sunday morning, guys, and my first email, the very first email, we had spent our entire coverage trying to explain, hey, look, guys, it was Wagner. Yeah, let's take it with a grain of salt. It was Wagner. The first email was, of course, this is Wagner, not Ohio State, right? So I want to just start this entire podcast. You like my dumb fan voice, by the way? Do you like that? That's like Letterman used to use that same dumb voice when he was on. When you know who Dave Letterman is? Oh, forget it.
You nailed it. You nailed the fan voice. And by the way, if we're gonna keep making you feel old, I wasn't born the last time Rutgers scored this many points in a game. So
that's
just
great.
Just pile on.
Thanks for pointing that out. So this entire podcast is let's get the disclaimer out of the way. We know Wagner stinks. We were there. We saw it. We can still talk about the game. 84 Rutgers players played. It was exactly what Greg Shanna wanted it to be. Easy victory. A lot of guys got in the field. So I'm going to throw this out for you guys both to start this thing off. Give me one real takeaway from the game that isn't Wagner related. That is something that you saw there that carries over against real competition that was encouraging.
Yeah, I thought, I do think that Evan Simon, I'm probably jumping the horse here a bit to get into the quarterback conversation, but I do think Evan Simon showed that his baseline level is at very least serviceable. And that, again, it's Wagner. He made all the throws that you should make. I think it's encouraging. And the flip side of that, obviously, is that Wimsatt did not make some of those throws. But I think if we're going to take away something positive from that, I would say that Evan Simon, did what he had to do, showed that he is at worst serviceable.
Yeah, he looked comfortable. I mean, that's the best way you can put it. I mean, he ran the offense. He made a lot of good throws. He did, makes good decisions. The 2-minute offense, he did well. We'll dive into the quarterbacks here in a minute. Pat, was there anything in that game that you saw looking back that was a positive non-Wagner thing?
I liked what you wrote about the defense showing signs of being really good. I think that was very accurate. So I won't steal your thunder on that. I'll go with, for the second week in a row, the running back dynamic and duo of Kyle Monungai and Al-Shadi Salam, right, to me looks like that perfect combination of speed and power. One guy runs between the tackles and the other guy is an outside the tackles guy. So I think 2 weeks in a row, you're seeing a really good combination of that rushing attack, which now I think Brian had the stat ranks in the top 10 in the nation in yards per game.
Right. And I agree with you totally on that too. I thought that we saw the running game worked well against Boston College. It worked well against Wagner. I think it might work well against a lot of teams on the schedule. And I like what Eric LeGrand said today in the pre, which is a cool thing they do, by the way. If you're on the Twitter, they do a little pre-press conference show now where Eric LeGrand's in it, giving his thoughts. And he pointed out that I know, I was one of the fans who are like, all right, are they going to throw the ball here against Wagner? But that first drive, it's still an extension of building confidence, of showing the offensive line could block people, and just another dominant, hey, look, this is going to be our strength. We're going to run the ball. We've got a better offensive line this year. I think that's a positive that's going to carry over to the rest of the games. I mean, again, this is a second straight good game for the line against Wagner. True, but positive, right? I mean, that's good. That's good news.
Absolutely. And like you said, they came out and ran the ball 11 straight times. So take the last drive from Boston College, take the first drive from Wagner. That's pretty much exactly what I think Greg Schiano wants to be a mash 'em type team.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Quarterbacks. I mean, it was, we kind of talked about a little bit, but Evan Simon was the better quarterback in that game. I don't think there's any questions about that. That said, the two things that Gavin Wimsatt did in that game that stand out to me, it just trumped a lot of the nice things that Evan Simon did. The long throw, I wrote about it. I tweeted it. I'm just not sure I've seen a ball with that much zip on it. Maybe too much zip. You pointed this out, Fonseca, in your film review. He did overthrow him a little bit, but just such an amazing throw. Number one. Number two, the run. Again, that's a weapon. I mean, he's a really good runner, and I'm surprised we haven't seen more of it from him. I think we will see more from him when he's out there. As good as Evan Simon is running the as good as he is in running with the short passes, Brian, you have to factor that in. That's a big part of why Gavin Wimsatt's out there.
Yeah, and I agree. I think I keep rehashing this point, but really it is like the ceiling versus the floor. Gavin has to make those throws. He missed every throw he made behind the line of scrimmage. You have to be able to complete those throws to be, a competent quarterback and be able to run an offense. Again, some of that was a couple of those passes hit his receivers on the hands, right? But he didn't do them any favor because he's lacking that touch, like you mentioned on that deep throw. Maybe that's a pass that needs more touch, and obviously his ability to throw that ball with that kind of zip, that power, that's something that no other quarterback on the roster, no other quarterback in Rutgers for the past probably decade can do.
Yeah.
So it's a good sign. It's just, there's a time and place that probably was not the right time and place. And the running, I think we could all agree, is probably his best attribute right now in his game. I think he shows an ability to take advantage of any space that opens up in the zone reads and run. He had a 28-yard run against Wagner. He had I think a 38-yard one against Boston College. So he shows it. He still has to work on his decision-making. There was a play where after the interception, he's running the ball and he should probably either throw it out of bounds or run out of bounds. And he picks the third option, which is the worst one, of running into three different guys waiting to tackle him. Right. That's going to get him hurt if it's a team that's not Wagner. On the interception, really another throw that he should either throw out of bounds, run out of bounds. And Greg Schiano pointed this out in the postgame press conference. The thing with Gavin is, like, the signs are there. Like, you can see why people rated him so highly. You can see why people put so much hope in him in the future. But at least I am surprised at how far away he is from putting it together. It feels like there's a decent amount of steps before he can kind of put anything resembling a complete game together.
We're in the press conference today, and Greg Schiano, I think you asked him actually about where they are with the quarterbacks, and it seems like they're just exactly where they were before the first game. And I don't think there's any signs that he's not going to play two guys. They seem to be comfortable with it. What did he say about the development overall? And are we wrong that he has to pick a quarterback? I mean, have we reached the point that, okay, maybe this team is functioning just fine with this?
I mean, Florida won a national championship, right, with two quarterbacks, one, of course, Tebow. But what about the development was that the interception was the same one he threw against Boston College. And if we're going to make mistakes, we, as in Gavin and I, we need to make different mistakes. You need to learn from those mistakes. So I think you nailed it. He is definitely comfortable playing two quarterbacks. And the big question, what is this going to look like when Vedral returns? It's going to be incredible.
He was asked about that today, right? And he clearly, I don't know, left the door open that Vedral might play. I think maybe an inch, right? I mean, Vedral's not going to play this week. Yeah,
I would be stunned if he played this week.
He said he's pressing, but no more after Tuesday and Wednesday's practices.
I mean, it'd be kind of feels silly to rush him back for Temple. That said, I mean, Iowa, that's a different story. I think there's a chance that we'll have a three-headed monster quarterback. Because I do believe that Noah Vedral will play right away when he's back, because I think they do trust him in the Big Ten games. I mean, you need a guy with experience. So, all right, let's go to the flip side, the defense. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think it'll be an interesting conundrum that, assuming they beat Temple like we all expect, and again, this is all hypothetical, but if Noah comes back for the Iowa game and you have three quarterbacks, you probably have to play him, but you're 3-0. Yeah. Do you want to disrupt that mojo into going to, a pretty big game? I mean, it's not like Iowa's not going to score 100 points, right? You only really need 17 points to beat them.
Yeah.
So do you want to interrupt that, whatever rhythm you have between these two guys, ruin the young guys' confidence in that we won 3 games and we still aren't able to keep our jobs? So that'll be, again, like really, really interesting how they managed to work with all of that.
That is a great point. All right. Defensive side of the ball, I wrote about it, and this was my observation. And every time I look at it, you say, all right, I knew the defensive line was going to be good. They are good. rotating 8 guys in there. They're all physical up front. They weren't great rushing the pass against Wagner. I don't know what, maybe who the heck knows why, but still only allowed 111 yards. I knew the defensive backs were going to be good. I didn't know Robert Longerbeam was going to be this good. So now they got 2 guys who are just absolute studs. They got depth at that position. We haven't seen it from Izien yet, but we know he's a good safety, a ball hawk guy. I mean, that's going to be good. Now I look at the linebackers and I'm like, all right, well, Tyree Powell, he just sticks out on the field. He's athletic. He's huge, long, fast. I thought that was going to be a weakness to the position, but now I'm not sure that's a weakness. I mean, is this defense, Brian, you think it's better than we thought it was going to be?
Tyron really does look like a Big Ten linebacker, doesn't he?
He does. Yes.
He could be built on, Isaiah Pacheco's legacy and become the next great star out of Ireland if he keeps this up. I agree. I think we mistook in the preseason that I still think the depth at linebacker is very thin, but we probably misunderestimated how good the top 2 guys are. Deion Jennings has been really solid. Tyrone Powell has been, like you said, just lights out so far. Really impressed with him. So yeah, I think maybe we'll learn more once they play, Iowa or they play Ohio State or, better teams. But I really think that they could not have impressed more than the 2 games they've had so far.
And Pat, that's the problem. I mean, they're one injury away from a disaster there, whereas at least all in the DL and in the defensive backfield, they don't have that same problem. But second in the nation against a run, doesn't matter who you're playing. I mean, certainly the competition matters, but that's a great sign.
Absolutely. And coming off of Boston College, remember the whole talk leading up to Boston College, was that they have one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, and he's going to be a future NFL player. But they had a couple takeaways in that game. They got to him, and the secondary mostly held up. I think what you wrote was perfectly spot on.
Always helps that Jason McCourty was available to just jump on and put a tape recorder in front of him and let him talk, because as you pointed out today, Fonseca, and I think in a Kratz level film review, he's really good. He's a great talker. He's good on TV, right? I mean, man.
Yeah, me and him are both rising media stars here. Thank you for the honor of saying it was a Kratz level. I'm truly honored.
Right. That's
but again, it was Wagner.
It was Wagner. Exactly. See if you can do it against Temple. All right, let's dive into true or false. True or false. We've got some good topics here. You guys probably by now know what the first 3 true or falses are going to be, but I'll do it anyway. All right, true or false. That settles it. Evan Simon is the guy. Fonseca, are you that certain? True or false?
As much as I liked what I saw, I'll say false.
All right, Lanny?
False for me as well.
Okay, going false. True or false? Come on, Politi. It's still Gavin Wimsatt's team. What do you think? Is that true, Brian?
At the moment, false.
False. Yeah. Pat?
False.
Yeah.
False.
It's still a toss-up. All right. True or false? We are simply waiting for the Vedral train to leave the station. Brian, true or false?
True.
True. I love it. Pat, true or false?
Great. That's great. I can't top that. So just true.
Don't even try. Yeah, I think we're heading that direction, folks. It'd be interesting to see how the fan base reacts. All right, true or false? This is an interesting one. The best young player versus Wagner, Rashad Rochelle. True or false?
I'll go false.
Ooh, okay. Interesting. Pat, true or false? False. Okay, 2 falses. I'm going to go true because I was really impressed with him, so I can't wait to see who you guys come up with. All right, true or false? Rutgers should stop playing these FCS teams. Fonseca, how do you feel about these teams? True or false?
True, but it's not their fault.
Oh, okay. True. Pat?
False.
False.
It's all about the money.
All right. I'm going to go halfsies on this one. I'll explain why in a minute. True or false? The real reason Greg Schiano is playing Wagner, fiscal responsibility. True or false? Brian, what do you got?
I'll say half true.
Half true? Okay. Pat?
I literally just gave you the dollar signs in my finger. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, they can't see that end of it.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sorry. That's false. I had to giggle when he said that at his press conference because it was like, I mean, we've kind of learned at this point that, saving money is not Greg Schiano's goal here, but I loved it. He did say at the press conference, and I get it. So that's part of it, certainly, but I'm going to go false. All right. True or false? The boardwalk was the best idea Rutgers has had in years. Fonseca, you were out there. True or false?
Fan-wise, I'll say true. It sure beats that hot tub they had against Washington.
It's true. It's a low bar to clear. Pat, true or false?
Half true. Can we come back to it? Or you want now?
True. Yeah, give it to me now. Why not? Hit me.
I love the knight statue a little bit more. Is my
Oh, that's a good one. Yes. Okay. Ron Garuti, again, fan of the pod. We'll be very happy to hear you say that. All right. Finally, true or false, Rutgers will be favored against Nebraska. Brian, you are what would Vin say about this? Your man Vin, true or false?
I cannot believe I'm saying this. True.
Wow. Okay. Do you agree, Pat?
I can't say true because in our preseason predictions, I said Rutgers' biggest upset was going to be Nebraska. So out of like pure respect for my preseason writing, I have to say false.
Yeah, I could still see Vegas making Nebraska like a 2 or 3 point favorite. I just don't. I don't. Maybe it's just the name that still sticks out to me, but I'm going to go false as well. All right, good one though. Got so many things to talk about. All right, I want to know who your young guy is because I really did like Rashad. I mean, this, on the roster as a wide receiver, clearly was a running back in this game. Had a little Debo Samuel in him. I mean, certainly he's not on that level yet. He's just a kid. I get it, but thought he was active. He was fast. They used him in kind of creative ways. He had a little bit of Cruikshank. You asked that question to Shanna today, and he agreed with that. Fonseca, who's your guy then? If the best youngest player out there was not him, who is it?
I'm going Chris Long, who made that incredible catch on the Wimsat touchdown.
That's a good one.
And he was robbed of a catch from the stats crew. They, for some reason, mistook him with Al-Shadi Salam. He had a catch from, I believe, Evan Simon, where he gained a few yards. Yeah, sorry, Pat. It looks like I took your guy, but I thought he was really good. I think he's a guy that really could take advantage of Taj Harris moving on from the program. I think he can use some reps and he has a chance of being one of the top wide receivers on the roster. I really liked what I saw from him. Yeah,
good point. That is a good one. So he stole yours. Lanny, you got to come up with one now. Pressure's on.
I was doing that because I saw Chris Long make that catch, and I was writing the young players piece, and that stat would have put him as the leading receiver for the team, but the stats never came in.
They never fixed it?
Technically wasn't the leading. Yeah, they never fixed it.
All right, so who do you got? You got somebody else?
My answer is not Chris Long. I thought Jordan Thompson played really well on the defensive line, and he was one of the guys that was rotating in even in the first quarter. He had 4 or 5 tackles, 1 for loss. So I think he's even more of a guy that's going to be not just playing in blowouts.
That's a good one, and one I hadn't thought about. So that's good job by you. What else do we want to talk about here? Oh yeah, the FCS. So I mean, go ahead, Fonseca. Tell me what your thoughts are with. And I know it's not a Rutgers thing; it's NCAA. But hit me your thoughts.
So it's not everyone does it, right? Alabama does it. That's the obvious counterpoint of saying, why should Rutgers do it? Well, Alabama, the team that's won 1 billion national titles, does it every year.
Right.
So it's not, I'm not faulting the teams for doing this. I'm faulting the NCAA for allowing these poor FCS programs to let their kids get their brains absolutely beat in. I mean, the poor Wagner punter, that poor kid. Greg Schiano was saying that it's a great experience for the kids, which, I mean, I'm sure it's cool to come out and play at Shai Stadium in front of a pretty decent sized crowd. But you think that poor punter is going to remember that Saturday fondly?
Yeah.
That kid almost, so he had a rough go there that first half. So I think the NCAA should just not allow this to happen. They should make FBS teams play FBS teams. From our standpoint, I think we can all agree that the Boston College game had so much more juice, so much more to write about, so much more anticipation. It was so much more exciting to cover than a game that really, it was over before it happened. I thought in the spring game, I had more things to prepare for than this game that really you saw in the first drive that Wagner had no chance against Rutgers. So I think that the NCAA should, for once, do something, outlaw it, and don't let it happen.
And all right, so to your point, I agree with where you're coming from. I also understand why Greg Schiano wants to play this game. If you're going to schedule a win. I understand what he's saying about the preseason. You want to, we don't get a preseason, so he wants to have a game early in the season when a lot of guys play. I get all that. It's just that Wagner was just so bad. I mean, there's got to be, and I get it, like, I got plenty. What do you want here? You don't want a bad team. You understand why we shouldn't schedule a good team.
Hey, Rutgers Rant listeners, it's Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media. We appreciate you supporting this podcast and the sponsors who help us continue doing it. This week's podcast is brought to you by the New Brunswick Development Corporation. If you listen to this show, you love Rutgers. And if you love Rutgers, you know the positive impact that DevCo has made on the campus and its community. We thank the New Brunswick Development Corporation for its continued support and for helping make this podcast possible. Now back to the show.
It's got to be a happy medium out there somewhere. Can't we? Can't you gotta get someone with doesn't have a team that doesn't have 5'8" defensive backs who run 4.8 40s. It's got to be a team that they could find that's not quite that bad. That'd be my point. Lanny, finish us up here with your thoughts on this one.
Okay, I was thinking while you were saying that, who is the team? Maybe it was Monmouth. That game got canceled, right? A little local game. Monmouth has been a good FCS team. So I think that would have been the perfect one. But why I'm pro FCS, it's financially responsible. Everybody, a little bit of confidence. So like you said, schedule a win. If you're going to schedule a win. That's my final takeaway, which is well said by you.
All right. What else we got here? Any Brian? I mean, you want to just talk about Nebraska for a minute, Brian? I mean, that's wild. They just can't. I mean, they rather give Scott Frost $7.5 million than wait 19 days. That's pretty amazing. You got to be pretty bad at your job for that to happen. I mean, that's crazy.
The rationale I read from some people out in Lincoln was that Trev Alberts, the AD, had to show some pulse, had to show the fan base that someone's paying attention and that it's unacceptable to lose to Georgia Southern. And for the first time, this is the first time that program has ever lost a game at home while they scored 35 points. That's unbelievable
wild.
stat.
That
it's
is
unbelievable.
Wild. Yeah, they've been around a long time.
That defense couldn't stop Wagner, I don't think, the way they were playing. It was terrible. Clay Helton, by the way, or Todd Helton. Clay Helton. Todd Helton's the baseball player. Clay Helton, head coach at Georgia Southern, a guy who got fired at USC in September last year, fired Scott Frost. Awesome side story. Yeah. Anyway, but yes, it's incredible how if you told me in 2018 this is how the Scott Frost era would have ended, I would have been shocked. I was convinced he was the guy that was going to take Nebraska back to the mountaintop. But for Rutgers' sake, I don't know. Will this team get rejuvenated under an interim coach? Will they just lay over and quit? And will guys, similar to when Chris Ash got fired in 2019, there were some key players who decided their season was over. They were going to redshirt, enter the portal, move on. Will that happen at Nebraska? I think the next week or so will be telling. But yeah, I think the college football world is having a really good time laughing at Nebraska's expense. I think that because of all this, I imagine a Rutgers team that could be, I'm not saying they will be, they could be 5-1 when they host Nebraska. They would be favored against the Huskers. If they're 4-2, even then, I can maybe see them being favored.
Let's just chop Temple first here. You're getting crazy. Nebraska may never get back to the mountaintop. I mean, that's what the people in Nebraska just can't accept. I mean, they're just another program now. I mean, where do you?
They have too many fans that go to the games. They have too much to not be good.
What do you mean? There's Southern Cal. Things change. There's still 30 programs you would put higher on the list of great college programs right now. Certainly,
they fill out an 80,000 or however many people stadium every week.
Yeah.
Like it feels it's too big, too much tradition. They were national champions in my lifetime. Like this isn't
well, right.
This isn't Texas A&M,
and we know that's not very long. Based on the way you keep on throwing that in our faces here.
I'm just saying. Okay. Like yeah. I personally believe Nebraska has a path to come back, especially in the terrible division they play in. I just don't think it'll be this year, and I don't think it'll be in Piscataway.
Break the tie, Lanny. Who's right? Who's right in the Nebraska debate?
Nebraska, I think they can get back. They still recruit think of all the guys from New Jersey that they've recruited lately. And they're getting guys from everywhere still, even with how bad they've been. So yeah. I don't think it's done forever. All
right, let's dive into some insider questions. That was good, true or false, lively discussion. But now we've got people have things. They want to know things. Lots of thank you again for subscribing to our text service. If you're not a part of the discussion, I don't know what the hell you're waiting for. All right, let's go here. This is a good one. So Alex from Freehold, one of our favorite texters, asks a lot of questions every week. Good questions. What do you make of the lack of pressure from Rutgers defensive line against Wagner? And what do you make of the offensive line's lack of pass protection? I don't know, Fonseca. I don't know if I saw either one of those as a big problem. What do you think?
I'm not sure what game Alex was watching. I think Wagner was just like snapping the ball and tossing it as soon as they could because they didn't want their quarterback to join the punter. And I don't think, aside from the drive where Wimsatt was flushed out of the pocket 3 times in a row, I can't recall any pressure really from Wagner's defensive line. So I think these are non-issues from this game.
All right. Brandon from Branchburg. That's a cool name. This one's for you. Take this one, Pat. Will there be more Temple or Rutgers fans at Lincoln Financial on Saturday? What do you think, Pat?
What Shiano said in the press conference today, there were 12 to 15 buses of Rutgers students heading down. There was a great contingent at Boston College. I just don't know enough about Temple and their fans to really give a good assessment, but I know Rutgers will be well represented.
I got to feel. What do you think? What do you think for a second? I got to feel this has got to be Rutgers.
Let me help you out here, Pat. Temple stinks. Does that change your estimation?
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. It's still their home game.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Rutgers. But it's going to be close, and it's not going to be certainly not going to fill an NFL stadium. That's for sure. All right, this is here we go. On the quarterback situation keeps on getting muckier. A good word, muckier. Simon is stepping up, and it's a good thing. But where does that leave Wimsatt, considering they're in the same class? Wimsatt is young and will improve, but Simon will as well. I'm just worried we're going to botch another opportunity with a heralded quarterback recruit, Savage, Sikowski, etc. Brian, is this a real concern? I mean, if Simon does prove to be the better QB, I mean, remember a quarterback transferred last year. Clearly, these guys want to play. Sikowski transferred, Savage. I mean, there's a trend of it. Should there be any worry about that?
So the concern, obviously, for Rutgers fans is that they lose this heralded recruit and all this potential that he has. But if Simon beats him out, wouldn't that be a good sign that Rutgers has a quarterback, right? I think that's the end game here, is just to have a guy that you can trust for the next 2 or 3 years.
Right.
I think everyone would want it to be Wimsatt because of the ceiling is so much higher. But just having someone,
it feels exactly like it. Sorry, Brian. It feels exactly like Savage and Chase Dodd, doesn't it, Steve? Like Savage had all this potential, but Chase Dodd just kind of slowly, methodically played his way in.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I understand that Savage was more talented. The same, and I think that Wimsatt's more talented than Simon, but I think Simon is more talented than Chase. I mean, Chase Dodd was essentially he's in the program now. He's a great kid. Played this hard. He's a baller, but he obviously wasn't a talented enough quarterback to play at this level. I think Simon is. So that's the only difference I'd say there.
Didn't Chase have I don't remember this, but didn't he have like a really big game, like first game or something, like a breakout game?
It sounds familiar. I mean, there's been a lot of quarterbacks switching over the years, but yeah, I mean, no, he came in and played really well early on. Yeah, and that's what happened. It's just it's a different system. I think there was a lot of problems back then about what kind of the identity of the offense was at that time. So
I bring it up only because I'm still waiting for an Evan Simon breakout game. You know what I'm saying? That's
right.
I don't necessarily disagree because I hadn't watched Chase Dodd. I can't say that. I just mean that I feel like if Chase Dodd had his moments, I still am waiting for an Evan Simon, moment to really grab that.
Good point. Excellent point. All right, here's Alex M in Bridgewater. And this is a question that's right up your alley, Fonseca, since you talked about it. Hate to ask, but it's on everyone's mind. Is a 5-1 start not only a possibility, but probable? Using the word probable. Probable. What do you think?
I will say possible, not probable. I continue to say that people are underestimating Iowa.
Oh, totally.
Their offense was an abomination to the sport of football. I watched the highlights. It was awful. But they might score, 21 points off their defense alone. Yeah. They're really, really good defensively. So, yes. And I think Rutgers is not that good offensively, despite some of the highlights they've had over the last couple of weeks. So I will say, though, 4-2, I think probable.
That'd be great. But let's not forget what happens with in the 5-1 scenario. Let's not forget what the 1 is. I mean, there's been a couple times when they've gone into Columbus or they played Ohio State and it just wrecked the confidence. I mean, I still have visions of poor Art Sikowski just getting destroyed in that one trip out there. I mean, it's, again, so many things have to go right for this team to be 5-1. Shannon wouldn't even ask your question about playing a night game in week 3, much less winning a night game in week 4. So I can imagine how he feels about the 5-1 talk. Good grief.
I will say that them playing at night, it could be a huge advantage because that place is going to be absolutely rocking.
Totally correct. All right, here's one from Mike from Orlando. Take this one, Alani. With so many D1 programs tanking, I imagine there'll be players entering the transfer portal. Would the rules allow us to pull another wide receiver from the portal that could play yet this year? Wow, I never think about this year. What do you think?
I think no. I think legally yes, but for Rutgers, no. Just think back to Josiah Harris, right? That was a big time recruit they got from Texas A&M, who everyone was so high on when he first arrived and the news came out. But as Greg Schiano said, we need to temper expectations. This kid just got in the program. So a person playing right away at Rutgers off a transfer at this point, it seems so unlikely.
Yeah, unless it's, Justin Jefferson or someone. I doubt that that's that doesn't seem like, I mean, and check me if I'm wrong here. Check me if I'm wrong, Fonseca. I mean, I think they're feeling decent about their receivers, even without Taj Harris.
I think so. I think the room is pretty solid. I wouldn't say they're outstanding. They're not Ohio State, obviously, but yeah, I would agree. The midseason transfer is kind of a fan dream more than anything because, for example, Taj Harris entered the portal 3 games into the year last year, and he didn't transfer till the offseason. I just think it would, aside from being a logistical nightmare of joining a program midseason, it just doesn't really happen.
All right, one final one from CJ Basking Ridge. What food or foods would you add to the boardwalk? Good one. I didn't eat anything out there because the lines were long. I got there a little late, but there was a lobster truck. You saw this? I mean, that's not
Cousin's Maine lobster. Yep.
Yeah, not what I would think for that. Zeppelis, of course, a standard of fare from the. What did you guys notice, and what were they missing? Anything?
There was one truck that was on Food Network show, Cooks vs. Cons, and he was actually like a winner on the show, and he did like boneless wings and things like that. So that was a real highlight for me. The food I would add, I don't know if Chorus does this, but my favorite boardwalk food is the orange and vanilla twist. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
From the Chorus brothers. Yeah.
Nice. You got anything that you want out there, Fonseca?
I have to imagine they had funnel cake, right?
Yes.
Fried Oreos, that kind of stuff. That seems like a requirement.
I think so. I would hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing else. Then I'm pretty easily satisfied on the boardwalk.
The rumor is that, and this is here breaking news late in the podcast, but I guess there's going to be a Ferris wheel next at the boardwalk for the Iowa game. How about that?
Pretty good.
Now once they get I want a log flume. When they get the log flume set up, we will know we've truly hit Jersey Shore boardwalk perfection. And that's what they have to do next, right?
Will Snooki make an appearance?
Snooki. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that'd be something, right?
When I think Iowa, I think Snooki. Now, the one thing I was disappointed with was everyone I asked about the slide, the giant slide they had, no one went on a ride for it. I mean, what are we doing? There's a giant slide and no one's gonna. I was very disappointed with that.
Is there a weight limit on the fun slide? I don't know if that's something I can do at this stage of my life.
All right, come on, Steve. You can do it. I believe in you. These are just excuses.
It's excuses, yes. Chop the slide next week. All right. That's good. Thank you for the questions, everyone. A lot of good ones. Appreciate it, as always. Sorry if we missed your questions. Predictions. Let's go. We all went 1-0 this week, although we had the line. Can you believe we undershot the line by 8 points? We had it I think we said it was 42.5, and it was 50. Wow.
It did get bet down. It did get bet down to 48.5 by kickoff, but yes, 50.5 is that's Ohio State versus Rutgers numbers, man.
There was a good one. I'm going to tell the story. I think it's not bad, but anyway, there's a good moment in that we were a little bored there in the second half, and Fonseca didn't think Rutgers was going to get to 60, and I just looked at him and said, there is no amount of money I will not bet that Rutgers is going to score 60 points in this game. And he looks at me and says, well, how about this? I will give you $100 if they score exactly 69 points, because we're children. And when they got to 66, I was thinking about the scenario. If I could somehow just get a message down to Shiano on the sidelines, just kick the field goal. We'll $50 each. It'll be great. We'll have a good laugh about it. But alas, they couldn't pull off the 69 point for me.
I did specifically say that if you text Greg, it does not count.
It does not want you.
I specifically said that. And also, a lot of people were rubbing it in my face. I had said, I think a couple podcasts ago, that Judah McAdamy would be a great kicker and their kicking problems were resolved. He's now missed a kick in each of the last 2 games, but the fact he missed that first field goal saved me $100. So who is laughing now?
Don't you hate when people listen to things we say and bring them up later?
I only like when people say what I did right.
Yeah, it's so true. You have a point to make, Pat? Look like you're almost going to say something now.
No. Just hampering on Brian's kicking predictions.
Well, you can go first this week. What's the line? It's 16.5. Is that 17? What is it?
It opened at 16.
16. Okay. Lanny, gun to your head. Give me your prediction.
Rutgers wins, covers. I think the ground game goes off again. So I'm going Rutgers 42, Temple 14.
Nope. Big win. Okay. Fonseca, since I'm trailing, you get to go first here. You get second here.
Okay. I'm on a similar wavelength as Pat here. I will go Rutgers 35, Temple 17.
Okay, so that's another cover, but close cover. All right, well, I guess I'm gonna. Well, God, this is just a slippery slope doing this, but I think I'm gonna take Tampa. I'll go closer game, a Rutgers win. Let's say a low scoring game, like a 24-10 game. I think Rutgers will probably have one of these games where they turn the ball over a bunch. They're on the road. It's a crappy play. Atmosphere is not going to be great. I just don't see them blowing Temple's doors off. Trap game. How's that trap game before they play Iowa?
I was going to say you're predicting the trap game.
Trap game. Yeah. A little early for the trap game, but no, I just think defensively, Greg Shannon made a great point that game last year wasn't nearly as lopsided as what was the score there? Like 70 to
61-14.
61-14. All right. So I'm going to lose this one and be down two games to you suckers, but I'm going to take the risk. All right. Anything else to talk about? 8-0 women's soccer. What else have we got? Anything cool? The basketball recruits. How did that go? Anybody close to committing?
Yes, a couple things. No, I think no one is close to committing as far as I know. Papa Conte talked to 247 Sports this morning, or rather the story came out this morning. He sounds like he's going to commit in November. It sounds like Memphis is starting to get involved. His AAU coach at the New York Wrens was just hired as an assistant at Memphis, so they might get an official visit. Pitt is getting involved. Our old friend Kevin Willard down in Maryland is heavily involved. Rutgers is in the thick of it again. Like I said last week, they're in the race. It's an uphill battle, but they're still in it. So we'll see in a couple months. It sounds like he's going to decide midway, just before his senior season. They had Eris Bailey, 5-star kid from the class of 24. He unofficially visited with his AAU team in the summer. He came on as an official visit for the game. From what I could tell, it went well. All these
good
official
to have
visits
it. Yeah, good to have him. You gotta get 5-star. That's great.
Yeah, the Rutgers is in the part of the rebuild, or the build, I guess we should say. It's not really a rebuild at this point, but
no rebuild. Yeah,
they're part of the program where they're getting these high-profile kids onto campus. Now, the next step obviously is like closing them out at a higher rate. That is like the good to great jump that a lot of teams aren't ever able to make. I guess this is a really telling part because the next 2 or 3 recruiting classes could really change the trajectory of this program from a good Big Ten team to a Big Ten title candidate team. If they can get kids like Papa Conte, Dylan Harper, Bayfall, any of those kids would change the program. And to go with Gavin Griffiths, obviously, who's already there. But that's all I got on hoops. Women's soccer, thrilling game on Sunday to beat LSU. They were down 2-0 early because of the rain. Sam Kroger had 2 goals, 2 really great goals from her and Kylie Daigle. They're 8-0 for the second time in program history. The first time was 2015 College Cup year.
Right.
They're undefeated in non-conference, which was a goal. And I think this team has a chance of repeating in the Big Ten, maybe finally winning the Big Ten tournament title, and honestly competing for a national championship. When you can win a game like that against an SEC team, it's always very impressive.
In fact, they can score goals too. You're right. The highlights were great. I mean, that third goal was just wow. So, I mean, that's usually been their problem. They've always been a great defensive team, but now they're scoring goals. So that's cool. Hall of Fame class. We want to talk about that. We got C. Vivian Stringer. No surprise there. Who else is in this class?
Sandra Petway, the first women's track coach, the first Black coach in any sport at Rutgers. Our colleague Keith Sargent has done a tremendous job chronicling her story and the sad recent events of her, getting into a car crash last year and
terrible story. Yeah,
terrible story. Really sad to see, but they're having a golf outing her name during the Nebraska weekend. The details of that are in our story and in Sargent's story. And Pat Willis, who was back in the day when coaches used to do a billion different things. She was the softball coach for 27 years, an assistant women's basketball coach for a few years. Mm-hmm. She was on the AIAW national championship team in 82. She was an assistant coach for the women's basketball team, and a 2-sport athlete for wrestling and football completes the list.
This is a nice one. This is an old school guy who, a friend of the pod, Bill Kennedy's been lobbying for him to get in for years. His old teammates. So this is a good thing that they it's not a name people know, but it's a good thing.
Dr. Sam Crosby. He played starting quarterback at Rutgers at a time where they played, I think, the single wing, where he was a quarterback, but he played a blocker. So he was essentially a fullback, and he was a wrestler. So those are the 4 people in the class that will be inducted in October.
Lovely. All right, guys. Thanks for everything. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks to Devco. Thanks to just everyone for listening. We appreciate it. We'll be back here after the Temple game to talk about that. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant. To participate in the conversation and receive live updates about the Scarlet Knights directly to your phone, sign up at NJ.com/insider.
You haven't heard enough from me yet, huh? Steve Politti here for one last thank you to this episode's sponsor, New Brunswick Development Corporation, and to listeners like you who make it all the way to the end of the show. We'll see you again soon.